Hello everyone, welcome to the first video on 5th Student Activity Lectures Delivery on Economics. In this video, I want to give you a better understanding of perfect competition and how any firm can reach its maximum profit under perfect competition, and also we're going to be measuring this profitability. So before we go through this chapter, I want to just give you a better visualization of perfect competition. So when we asked economists about perfect competition market, they told us that in order to have a perfectly competitive market, we need to have 4 main criteria. So those 4 criteria, when they are met, then we can judge this market by perfect competition. So as the first one is many firms, huge number of firms. The second is no firm can affect the market, and the freedom to entry or to leave the market, and for the consumer has to have all the information about the price of the good. What does that mean? Well, in order to understand those 4 criteria, let's just take a good example, which is bread. Bread represents really perfect competition. So for instance, let's just imagine that the price of the bread is like $2 per unit, and the quality of that bread is, let's say, 50 grams per unit. So the consumer, all people, just know for sure that the price of the bread is $2 and the weight of that loaf is 50 grams. So this is as for good information for about the price. This is for consumer. What about the other 3? Those 3 are related to the seller or the firm. The first is many sellers. For bread, for sure that there is huge number of sellers in Egypt, let's say, of bread. You can find a lot of bread sellers in the street. Okay, that's for the first one. About the second one, no firm can affect the market. Let's say, for instance, a bread seller decided not to sell today the bread. Will that lead to increase in the price in the street for the market of bread? Of course not. So the firm, one single firm, cannot affect the price of the market. Okay, how about the third one, the freedom to enter or leave? Well, any seller or any person can just enter the market of bread when he sees like the market is attractive to them, and it's like they are making a lot of profit, so they want to start a new business on bread. So it just like it does not cost them a lot of money to start like bread business, so they will just enter the business or the bread market easily. And if they decided like, well, we are not making a lot of profit, we are making losses, so let's just shut it down and stop operating under this market, so they can leave easily too. So the freedom to enter or leave with no barriers. Those are concerning. Those criteria are concerning about the perfect competition market. So what I want to get from this criteria is a simple fact that the firm is a price taker. So what does that mean, to be a price taker? Well, that will be in this paper. Well, let's just examine a simple demand and supply curve on the market wide. This is for the market of bread. Let's put it here, bread. This is the market of bread, and here's the supply of bread. This is the demand. Here's the point of equilibrium, and let's say the price is $2. Let's say the price is $2, or let's just make it $1. Okay, so the market decided the price of bread to be $1. So what basically the firm or the seller will do is just take the price as it is from the market. Here's the market, and the firm will just simply take the price as it is and start operating under this price. So the demand of this firm will be just constant horizontal line. So it's perfectly elastic, perfectly elastic demand line. So what we can understand from this fact that the demand does not change according to the price. So the quantity is like, if for example I can buy the first quantity for the price of 1 and the quantity number 100 just for $1 too. But for the market demand, let's say this quantity will be just for $1. This quantity number 1 will be just like for, let's say, $2. But quantity number 100 will be just for, let's say, 20 cents. So there is an interesting fact here that the demand does not change on the firm-wide, so it's constant. That's why the firm is a price taker. But there is another interesting fact about perfect competition, which is the demand, of course, equal the price, because the price is constant and the demand is constant, so they equal each other. But they equal something else, which is marginal revenues. Marginal revenues. What is marginal revenues? Well, economically speaking, marginal revenues is the extra amount of revenues that I get or the firm gets when the firm increases the quantity by one single unit. But still, why the marginal revenues equals the price? So let's take it from this point. Let's say the quantity is 1, 2, 3, 4 and the price is constant by 1, and the total revenues equals quantity times the price, or price times the quantity, which was going to be 1 times 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. How about the marginal revenues? What is the marginal revenues? It's the change in total revenues over the change in quantity. I'll just go and illustrate something else, which is how to calculate any marginal. Let's say marginal x. So to calculate marginal x is change of x over change in quantity, meaning that when the firm increases the quantity by 1 unit, it will gain that extra amount of x. So let's put it on the marginal revenues. It's like the extra amount of revenues that the firm will get, the extra amount of profit, not profit, the extra amount of like revenues, income for the firm that it gets when it increased the quantity by 1 single unit. So the marginal revenues, let's just calculate it. As we said, is the change on the total revenues over the change in quantity. And let's just put a simple fixed thing here, which is the quantity is fixed, it's increasing by a fixed amount, like it's increasing by 1 unit, so the change is always by 1. So let's get the change in the total revenues. From 1 to 2, the change is 1. 3 minus 2 equals 1. 4 minus 3 equals 1. Just recalling that we just divide by the change in quantity, which is 1. It's constant, it's 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. 3 minus 2 is 1. 4 minus 3 is 1. So it's constant amount. So now we can have an interesting thing, which is the marginal revenues is exactly the same as price. That's why we have those three equal each other. I hope by now that you understand more about the demand line or the demand curve for the perfect competition market for the firm, of course. What I want to do next is to understand how the firm can maximize its profit, given that the demand line is perfectly elastic horizontal line. So let's say this is the demand line, and we want to understand, or we want to know the quantity that the firm should operate on to maximize its profit. So the question, most of this chapter is talking about this question, which is how the firm under the perfect competition market can maximize its profit. So the question here once more, under which quantity will the firm maximize its profit? So we want to know the quantity which the firm can maximize its profit. So basically, if we want to figure out the maximization of profit, we will be looking at the intersection between the marginal cost and the marginal revenues at this point. So this is the market equilibrium, and we have to understand what is the meaning of market equilibrium. Well, the market equilibrium for the perfect competition, or for any market, it is the point of maximization the profit for the firm. So for example, the point of equilibrium in monopoly market, or oligopoly, or monopolistic, or any market, it's the point of maximizing the profit. So under the perfect competition market, the point of equilibrium is the point of intersection between the marginal cost and the marginal revenues. So what we can derive from this is, like, when the marginal cost is equal to the marginal revenues at this point, so the firm is maximizing its profit. So let's just understand it in a mathematical way. We know that the marginal profit equals the marginal revenues minus the marginal cost. That's simple because the profit equals revenues minus the cost. So from this, and we want to know and we want to get the marginal profit as its maximum, and when it's maximum, the marginal profit equals 0. So we put the marginal profit equals 0, and then marginal revenues minus marginal cost. So we just get this the other way around. The marginal cost equals the marginal revenues. So we get it from many different perspectives, and I want you to just understand this. If we want to talk about market equilibrium and the perfect competition, we can take it as the point of maximization. So the point of maximization is like the point that the firm cannot exceed the profit of this point, no matter it increased its quantity. So let's say that point of equilibrium is let's say just like quantity is 5. So at this quantity, when the firm offers 5 units, it is maximizing its profit. So, and it is in equilibrium. Let's take it from the other side. If we wanted to know it mathematically, the marginal profit equals the marginal revenues minus the marginal cost. And if we want the maximum point of any marginal, we put it as 0. This is the point of maximization for any marginal. So we put just the marginal profit as 0, and the marginal revenues minus the marginal costs, and then we just get the marginal cost the other side, and then we equalize them. Marginal cost equal marginal revenues, and here is the market equilibrium. And it's just like, if you notice that the whole chapter is talking about this, the marginal cost is equal to the marginal revenues, which is the market equilibrium. That's half of the chapter is talking about. Like, it's talking about the market equilibrium and how the firm can maximize its profit. I hope you by now understand more about market equilibrium. So what I want to do next is how to make a good use of the market equilibrium and decide whether the firm is losing or making profit under the perfect competition market. So profit versus loss under perfect competition. So let's say this is a firm that let's say sells bread, and we want to know that firm whether it's making profit or losses. So basically what we need to do is to compare its revenues with its cost and see if the cost is higher than its revenues, then for sure it's making losses. And if the firm is making more revenues higher than the cost, that means it's making profit. And if the cost equal exactly the revenues, then it's not making any profit or losses. So let's just understand this through graphs. First, I want to go through this graph. In order to understand when the firm is making profit or not, we need to put a new curve, which is the average total cost. The average total cost. So what I want to do here is first to understand or to know where is the point of equilibrium, and we just stated this earlier. It's the point of intersection between the MR or the marginal returns with the marginal cost. So here's the point of equilibrium. So the firm is operating under this level of quantity, let's say just 5, and its average total cost is here, and the revenues, its revenues is here. So the revenues, this line is higher than this level. So the level of cost is here, and the level, let me just put it, this is cost, and the level of revenues is here. So the revenues, the marginal revenues is higher than the average total cost, which means that the firm is making profit. It's making profit. So let me just illustrate it one more time. We just simply figure out which curve is higher than the other. If the marginal revenues is higher than the average total cost, then the firm is making profit. So simply I'll just go here. This is the marginal revenues. Here's the marginal revenues. So it's higher than, let's say this is $1, and the average total cost here sits at, let's say 80 cents. So the firm is getting $1 and its cost is 8 cents. So it's making profit. So it's not losing. So the firm is making profit. Let's take it from the other side. Say profit. This is scenario number 1. How about scenario number 2? The firm, this is the marginal revenues. The first thing we need to know is where's the point of equilibrium, and here's the point of equilibrium. So the firm is operating under this level of quantity, let's say 5, but it's making the cost of this firm is higher. It's higher. This is the level of cost is higher than the level of revenues. Let's say the revenues is $1 and the cost is, let's say, 180. So it's making more losses than what it gets. So the revenues is less than the marginal revenues is less than the average total cost. That's why the firm is losing. Yeah, the firm is losing by this amount. But just don't worry, we're gonna know in the next paper how to calculate the profitability or losses of any firm. So the curve, the marginal revenues curve is less than the average total cost curve. That's why it's losing. Once again. Okay, the third scenario, it's just like by logic, the average total cost equals the marginal revenues, and here's the point of equilibrium. So the marginal revenues equals the average total cost. So what do you think? What do you think will happen? So what this firm gets is exactly the same of what it pays. So it's not making neither profit or losses. Not making any profit or losses. So it is not making anything. So it is indifferent. So I hope by now you understand the mechanism of determining whether the firm is making profit or losses or not making anything. In the next paper, what I want to do is to understand how to measure the profitability of the firm. We earlier decided whether the firm is making profit or not, but how to calculate this and put it in form of numbers. Okay, the first thing we need to do is to put the average total cost with the marginal cost and the marginal revenues. And let's just decide the profit equals the revenues minus the cost. That's a simple rule that everyone knows. So we want to know the profit, so we need to know the revenues and the cost of any firm to decide the profit. So let's just understand this from this graph. This firm is operating under this level of 5 quantity and under the price of $1. So to understand or to get the revenues, let me put it in color here. Revenues equals price times the quantity, and price is here. This is the price times the quantity, this whole quantity. So the revenues is this whole part. Once again, we just draw a simple line until it touched the quantity. This is the quantity that the firm is operating with. It's 5. So here's the quantity, it's 5, and the price is 1. So we have quantity by 5, and the price is 1. 1 times 5 is 5. So this is the revenues. How about the cost? The cost we stated earlier that it's the bottom point of the average total cost. So we just go down until we touch the quantity. Let's say just 4. The quantity is 4, and with the price of let's say 50 cents. So the revenues, not the revenues, the cost, let me put it in another color, the cost equals the average total cost times the price times the quantity. So what we have here is this part, because this is the average total cost, and this is the average total cost with was 0.5 and the quantity is 4. So here this whole area is the cost. Let me put it, this is the cost and this is the revenues. So the difference between them is the profit. Here is the profit. This simple triangle. This is the profit. This is the profit, because we have here like 2 minus quantity, average total cost 0.5 times the quantity 4, so it's 2. So the profit equals 5 minus 2 is 3, and here is the profit the firm is making. So I hope by now you understand how to measure the profitability of the firm. Now let's take it from the other side. How to measure the loss. Okay, here's the level that the firm is operating on, which is 5. So we want to know the revenues, or first the profit. Here's this symbol represents profit. Profit. So we want to measure the profits, it's revenues minus the cost. So we want to understand or get the profit from here. So first thing we need to do is to measure the revenues, which is quantity times the price. Here's this part. This is the price of $1. And then we want to know where's the cost equals, one more time, average total cost times the quantity. So here's, we just go straight until we just touch the average total cost, and then this whole part, just this whole part is the cost. Not just this part, but this part too. Remember, because the average total cost is higher than the marginal revenues. That's why it's making losses. So by how much it's making losses? By this part. This is the losses. So I hope you understand the mechanism of calculating the profitability of any firm under the perfect competition market. So let me just recap of what we have said so far. We have said that the perfect competition market is unrealistic market where it has certain criteria that if they are met, then we can judge this market by perfect competition. And then we understood that the perfect competition market has a fixed or a constant demand line, which equals, hold on, let me just show it to you, which equals the price and the marginal revenues. And then we understood that the market equilibrium is the point of maximization the profit, and we knew that in order for any firm to reach the market equilibrium, it has to have the marginal cost equals the marginal revenues, or the point of intersection between the marginal cost and the marginal revenues. That's the point of maximization, the profit. And then we went through the profit versus loss, how to determine whether the firm is making profit or losses, and we knew that we need to know which curve is higher. If the marginal revenues is higher than the average total cost, then it's making profit, and if the average total cost is higher than the marginal revenues, or the marginal revenues is less than the average total costs, then the firm is losing. But when the marginal revenues equals the marginal cost equals the average total cost, then the company or the firm is indifferent. And then we went through on how to measure the profitability of any firm. And then we understood that in order to figure out the profitability, we need to understand or to get the revenues and the cost and subtract them from each other, and then we're gonna have the profit. And we stated that when the marginal revenues is higher than the average total cost, then the firm is making profit by this amount, and when the firm is having the average total cost higher than the marginal cost, the marginal revenues, then the firm is making losses by this part. So I hope you understand now the perfect competition market, and you have a better visualization of the market in your mind. So if you have any question, just send it to me by email, and I hope that I will just illustrate anything for you. And thanks for listening.